Hi friends, welcome to another interesting tutorial. In this tutorial, I'll be showing you how you are going to cut and sew your jumpsuit. Now, for you to be able to make a perfect jumpsuit, you must know how to draft your trouser block perfectly. And if you do not have an idea on how to do this, I'm going to leave a link at the end of the tutorial that will teach you how to make a perfect trouser. And then on the top part, you're going to also need your bodice block. I'm also going to leave a link on that should you need how to make the bodice block. And we need the sleeve block. Now the sleeve block is also, I'm going to be leaving a link on how to make these. Now, ability to know how to make these parts of the garment and bring them together will give you a perfect jumpsuit. Now, what you need to understand, according to the picture you are seeing there, the jumpsuit has in between your half length and your trouser waist, there is what I refer to as the waist 3. Now, the waist 3 is the difference between where your half length ends and where your stomach circumference ends. There is a width there that you need to incorporate when you are making the jumpsuit. So the half length does not just join on your waist trouser. Remember, in the trouser tutorial, I said that whenever you want to draft your trouser waist, you need to ask your client where she wears her trouser, because some people wear trouser at the lower part of the stomach, some brings it above the navel. So whichever way the person is comfortable, that is the part that you will measure as the trouser waist. And then the half length, after the half length is that waist 3. So what we are going to do, I'm going to keep aside these other blocks while we work on the trouser part. Then we will bring them back and work on them. So the difference between my waist 2 and my waist 3 for the client that I am working with is 2.5 inches. 2.5 inches. Now, I had to cut this strip. This strip is 2.5 inches wide. 2.5. I hope you can see that. It's 2.5 inches wide. This represents the width of my stomach circumference, the stomach circumference of the client that I'm working with. So I'm going to do something now. I'm going to add this to the length of my trouser to make up for the length that will fit my clients perfectly. Let me take that again. Now, looking at the picture I had earlier posted, you will see that the bodice block covers from the nape of the neck to the natural waist of a person. Now, there is this difference between the end of your bodice block and the beginning of the trouser waist. There is a gap, which I will call it waist 3. Now, that waist has a width depending on where the half length of your client ends and where her trouser waist begins. Now, for this client, that difference is 2 inches. So I'm going to go ahead and impute this on my client. And how do I do this? I'm going to slash through. Let me keep this aside first. This is my back block. I'm going to slash through my hip line this way. I hope you can see. And I bring in that waist and I attach. Okay, as you can see, I have gone ahead to slash through my hip line to fix the width of my stomach. This is the standard way of doing it. Now, I'm going to go ahead to shape this and shape this other side. So I'm going to bring in my curve ruler and I shape in the hip side. Let me use it somewhat straight here so that I can have it perfectly. So it's going to be like that. And then I come in and I shape in this area. This is the best way to fix this, and you don't have anything altering the slope here. Because somebody may say, why don't you attach it here? After all, it is before the hip. Yes, you're correct. But fixing it here gives us the ability to increase the length accordingly, while at the same time not altering the shape, because there is a kind of slant at this upper area. So you see what I just did? I'm going to go ahead and do that to the back block as well. Now perfectly what we need to make this is no more just an ordinary trouser, but a jumpsuit trouser. Why? Because you have increased this trouser length by the width of the stomach circumference. Okay, so having done this, I'm now going to bring in my bodice block. So let me keep aside the back trouser while we work on this. Now, as you can see, this is my center front, and this is how the center front is going to be. So the first thing we need to do is to align the dart. You know, the dart was constructed differently. This other dart on the bodice block was based on the bust span size. Now the dart on the trouser was based on the continuation of the center line. So that is okay, but when you are sewing, it will not be aesthetically beautiful for you to see this discontinuity at the dart points. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the bust span location, the bust span size, to alter this other dart on the back. So I'm going to come in with a different color of marker so that you can note the alterations perfectly. Let me use a red marker. So I'm going to locate the dart points accordingly while I maintain my dart leg. So it is very important that you do this alignment. Very, very important. So I continue. Okay, that's the first thing you do to alter it to. And I forgot to input my bust span and my bust dart. My bust dart width here is 2 inches. Remember, it is this bust dart that will make my front and my back block to meet. So this is just all that we will need to do before I now show you how to calculate the turtleneck and fix it. So I'm just going to leave this like this and leave it as simple as that. I'll just go ahead and shape out my armhole. So that is that about our front block. So I'm going to bring in the back block and align accordingly along the dart point. Hold on a bit. So this is my back block. You see, this is my back tightening line. So this trouser is going to be like this. This is how it is going to be. It's not going to continue from this. This is going to now form an allowance for my zipper. So I'm measuring from that back tightening line 1 inch for my zipper allowance. So that's just how. So it's going to sit like this. So it is on that point that I'm also going to shape out the dart this way so that they continue with the front. with the bodice block, while I maintain my dart length. So that's how it's going to be. Okay, we have gotten that right. So the next thing I'm also going to do will be to shape out my armhole. And I'm going to shape out my zipper line to follow the silhouette of my back tightening. So that is all about the back block. So I'll go ahead now and show you how to take a measurement of your weight of your neck circumference, so that you will be able to make the turtleneck before we go ahead to cutting. Okay, so these are my bodice block. This is my center front. This is my center back. I want to show you how to take the neck circumference of your block. While you keep the center front straight, while you keep it straight, you twist the center block such that you have the neck point aligning and you have the shoulder point aligning. So the center front stays straight while the slant is on the back block. I hope you can see. And then you measure the circumference of the neckline. So have you seen how I'm twisting my tape to follow the outline of the neck? So I'm taking it that way, all the way, because I want my zipper to pass into the turtleneck. So I have 10 and a half from my pattern neck circumference. I lay that aside. Now I have cut a strip to that length, 10 and a half. You see, this is 10 and a half that we have here. And I want the width of my turtleneck to be 2.5 inches. 2.5 inches. So the width that I want, you could choose to make yours 1 inch, 1.5, 3 inches as you want. But I want mine to be 2.5, while I maintain the length that I had measured from my neck circumference, 10 and a half. So I'm going to show you my own way of making the Mandarin collar or the turtleneck. So I label this my center front and I label this my center back. No, my center back. Then I'm going to be making crease lines along this point. This is the inner edge of the line that will be fixed into the neckline. This is the neckline of the garment. This is the outer edge that will be that I want it to hug around my neck circumference. So I'm going to be creating crease lines. I hope you see what I'm doing. I'm creating crease lines on that. So I don't want it to be very hugging. So I'm okay with this crease line that I'm making. So what I'm going to be doing, if you want yours to be more hugging, you can take out and create more crease lines on it. So I'm going to be taking out a circumference of not circumference. I'm going to be creating something like a dart of 0.25. 0.25. I hope you can see. And I'm going to be ruling that dart into my crease line. I don't know if you're seeing the crease line. Let me draw them out. This is one. This is another. And this is another. So I'm going to be ruling out my 0 point. Are you seeing what I'm doing? I'm creating something like a dart. So I want to contour out the outer edge so that I will have some hugging effect on that, while I maintain my 10.5 inches on the inner edge. The inner edge is the edge that will be sewn on the neckline. So since the neckline gave me 10.5 inches, I don't need to take out any width from there. Now what I'm going to do is I'm taking out the width from the outer edge. So I'm folding it that way, such that it pencils out and nothing is taken out from the inner edge. So I'm going to come in now with my tape and tape that down. So that is one of it that I have taped down. I'm going to do likewise to the other two. Just like I mentioned, I do not want to have a too hugging effect on the neckline. I just want to have something. So have you seen, as I am taping it down, the shape of the outer edge is changing from that somewhat straight line that we had, is now becoming a curve. So I'm taping down the last one now. So this is how my neckline is going to be. So I want it to have some curved effect on the outer edge, while the inner edge, nothing is taken out of it. So that by the time I fix the outer edge back to the neckline, I'm going to be having my 10.5 inches complete. Okay, let us go over to the cutting table now. Hold on a while. Okay, so this is my front trouser. Now for us to be able to have a palazzo, I'm going to be closing this dart while I transfer the dart to give me a fullness at the center line. So I go ahead and I slash my center line. I'm slashing it all the way to the dart end point. I hope you can see. So I'm going to now close my dart. So I'm closing my dart from my center front to my side front. So I'm closing the dart. You see the fullness that I have on that trouser block. So it is giving me the fullness that I need, and I am okay with that. So I'm going to do likewise to the back block. I'm achieving my palazzo using the slash and spread technique. So I'm going to do likewise to the back block. Then I'll come in and show you my pattern. Hold on a while. So this is what my pattern looks like for the trouser. So I go ahead and lay my fabric for us to cut. So as you can see, I have laid out my pattern and I'm going to be cutting it. So this is how my pattern is going to be. I'm going to be adding 1/2 inch here, 1/2 inch on the sides, and I will cut through. By the time I finish cutting through, I will come in and show you what to do next. Okay, so this is what my cutout looks like. This is my back block. This is my back block. So it has given me the fullness at the hem. You've seen that I didn't go into slash here. I only slashed the pattern to be able to achieve this fullness. So I will keep this aside. And this is my front block. And I've gone ahead to do that too. Now I'm going to show you something in this front block. You need to do your waist shaping at this point so that it will settle well on your jumpsuit. You need to do your waist shaping. That is only on the front block. So from the edge of my pattern, I'm going to go in here by about 1 inch to do this waist shaping. Why am I going in by 1 inch? Because the person that I am working with is a plus size. So because she's a plus size, I'm going to be going into her waistline. So I'm going to be shaping this all the way to here, such that no width is lost along the line. Let me bring in my other ruler. Okay, so I'm waist shaping so that I will not have that excess kind of baggage along the center front. It is always very common, particularly with plus sizes. It may not be noticeable with a slim body. So you see, I've gone ahead to shape out my pattern there by 1 inch. Please, depending on the size of the client that you are working with, you can do 0.5, 0.75. So I'm going to be cutting that pattern out. I needed to keep this up till now to explain it. So you see, I didn't take out any width along the waistline there. It's only in the center front, so that you will not have an excess. No, it usually comes like that. So I'm going to now add my seam allowance that will enable me to sew that area. So that is the only alteration that is needed to be done to the front trouser. Let's go over now and draft and cut the bodice block. So this is the outlay of my bodice block. Like I mentioned, I want to leave it a very simple bodice. So this is my center front. As you can see, this part of my fabric is on fold. So the center front aligns that way. And this is my back block. So I'm going to go ahead and cut. When I come back, I'm going to show you the cutouts. So these are my cutouts. I'm done cutting. I've transferred the notches of my waist dart onto my fabric. I've done likewise here. I've notched the point for the zipper allowance so that I know perfectly. Just in case I'm not the one joining. No, it's always good to make these notches, so that the person sewing, you know adequately what to do. So for my bust dart, I also transferred. I threw the dart and transferred the pattern to the side. So my bodice block is ready for sewing. Now let us go over now to the sleeve. Okay, so this is my sleeve. I folded my sleeve into two so that I will have the two sleeves come out at the same time. So I'm pinning that down. I want to leave it as a pencil sleeve. Or rather, I'm going to shape it out on the hem a bit so that I can have some sort of fullness there. So I'm going to have it like a mild bell sleeve. So I can vary this, my pattern, this way. Hope you see what I'm doing. I can vary it this way just to get out what I want perfectly. Let me give it some sort of, let me not leave it pencil as I had planned initially. So let it be something like that. So I'm cutting that out. Okay. So I'm cutting it. So that is how it's going to be. I'm going to put elastic at the bottom there, so it's kind of giving me that. So I'm going to be gathering this just a little, so to give me a kind of a mild bell sleeve, very mild. So we are done with that. So that has given me two because I folded the fabric into two. So the last part of the cutting now is going to be the turtleneck that we had drafted out. So I'm going to be needing two pieces of that. So I'm going to have to fold my fabric into two so that one will be, okay, let me fold it this way so I can achieve the length. So one will be, so this is my center front. My center front area is going to be on fold. I'm going to leave it on fold because I do not want that part to be cut. So that's how, I hope you can see. I'm aligning the center front part to be on the fold part, while the uncut part is this other part. So I'm going to go ahead giving it 0.5 sewing allowance round. So that is that about all the cuttings that we needed to do. So that's the turtleneck, this is the sleeve block, and this gives me my trouser. So my cutting is set. Let us go over now to the sewing. Hi friends, welcome to the sewing aspect. This is my back block. So as you've seen, I've gone ahead to transfer my dart markings on my fabric. Then I've interfaced the neckline so that it will be a bit firmer, and the zipper area. So I'm going to go ahead now to hold the dart first and on the bodice before we go further. So I'll just sew in the dart and then come in and show you what we have done. So I've gone ahead to sew the dart. So this is the other part. I've gone ahead to sew the dart. So I'm going to go over now and give it a thorough press. Then I'll bring the down part of the trouser and also hold the dart so that we can join them together, hanging there. So after holding in the dart, I'm going to go ahead and join the trouser part to the bodice part. So joining them by the waistline. So I'll go ahead and do that for all the pieces. So I'm joining the waist now. Sewing the jumpsuit is very easy. About a 1-hour project, you have finished sewing your jumpsuit. Let me fix in my thread well. Okay. So I'm joining it at the 0.5 sewing allowance that we had set. So I'll go ahead and join all the pieces. Let me show you this one that I have joined. So I have joined the up part to the down part. So I'm going ahead now to give it a thorough press at the seam. Then I'll come back and show you what we've done. So for the front bodice, I've gone ahead to hold the waist darts and to hold my bust darts. So what we are going to be doing is we will join the central crotch to an extent before we attach it to the body. So this is the trouser part. This is the trouser part for the front, and this is the other side. So we are going to go ahead and join this crotch area. We are going to join this crotch area, the central seam of the crotch area, and leave at about 1 inch to the end. We will stop there so that I will show you how you will attach the front trouser to the back trouser accordingly, hanging there. So I have gone ahead to join the front bodice to the trouser part. the next thing we are going to do now is we are going to join the front bodice to the back bodice by the shoulder. We'll join it by the shoulder. Take this side seams, join them by the side seams, and then come over and join them by the trouser length. So now by the trouser, it's going to be a trouser, one side of the trouser to one side of the back trouser to the opposite side of the front trouser. So we'll just go ahead now and join, then I'll show you what next to do. So I have gone ahead to take my side seams, that is joining my front bodice to my back block, both the bodice part and the trouser. So this is what it looks like. I'm going to go ahead now and give it a thorough press at all the places that we had sewn. So this is what the front looks like. So I made sure that my front, the midpoint of my front bodice coincides with the central seam of my crotch line here, so that it can align perfectly on either sides of the jumpsuit. The jumpsuit isn't a difficult piece at all to sew. Okay, so for our style jumpsuit, the neck part had the turtleneck that we want to put. So I'll keep this aside for a moment while we talk about the turtleneck. So here is it. I had gone ahead to interface it. This is it. I had gone ahead to interface it, and I cut two pieces out of it. So this is the lining piece. So this is the area that is going to be attached. These sides are going to be attached on the fabric, whereas this is the part that is going to be on the neckline. So I'm going to go ahead to turn over this part while we attach this part on the dress, on the jumpsuit. Hold on a minute. So I have gone ahead to turn over the turtleneck. This is the front part, this is the back part, and I have notched it at the midpoint. So I'm going to go ahead now and pin it to the central point of my neck. This is the central point of my neck. So I'm going to be pinning one. This is the front part. So I'm going to be pinning this part to the central point that way. So when I finish pinning, I'm going to go ahead and sew it. Just hold on. So I have gone ahead to attach my turtleneck. I'm going to go over and give this place a thorough press. This is what the inside looks like. As you can see, I have not attached this other part of the facing. So I'm going to press it and then attach this point like this to give it a clean finish at that point. Hold on. So I'm done attaching the turtleneck. This is the front side. This is the back part of it. So I'm done attaching it. So what I'm going to do next will be to go ahead and fix my zipper and then fix my sleeve. So then we'll come back and show you the finished product. So the jumpsuit body is ready. So those two things, let me just fix in my zipper, then I'll show you how to make the sleeve. Hold on.